In May 2012, the Economist Intelligence Unit conducted a survey of C-level executives, all CEOs and CFOs, in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. We set out to gauge respondents' views of the human resources function at their companies. To get the CEO perspective, I'm joined today by Dinesh Paliwal, whose views are also featured in our research. Dinesh is CEO of Harman International, a global audio and automotive electronics technology company. Dinesh, you told us that you began to see the value of HR in your previous position before coming to Harman. How and when did you come to that realization? What triggered it?
Well, that's a great question. I think I realized when I truly owned the accountability of delivering results, P&L, particularly a global role I had, and I found out the big me of Dinesh alone wasn't enough. So that's where I said I need to surround myself with some of the best people who complement me. And not only finding was a challenge, but keeping them and mentoring them and developing them. That's where I needed to see a partner in my head of human resources.
One thing you mentioned to us in the interview was that you've ensured at Harman that the CHRO is a member of the executive committee. What does the head of HR contribute to the executive committee? Can you give us some examples?
Well, precisely speaking, CHRO has a seat on the board table with me. And also his optics is very important. I make him sit either left or right of me. One side would be CFO, one side should be CHRO. It's so critical because I see the balance sheet has two parts. The balance sheet for financials and balance sheet for people. And if these two are not in balance, then no organization can have a sustainable success. For me, CHROs should not spend more than 20–30% of the time in traditional compensation planning and all those things which must be done but can be done by many people. I want CHRO to be part of the strategy. I want them to be thinking with me, how do we take this company from A to B? How do we grow in emerging markets? How do we handle the people issues in unionized environment of Germany and United States? How do we do mentoring? How do we pair people? And how do we measure the progress? People say, how do you measure ROIC? These are various things. We have put matrix in place for HR success, CHRO success. And that's why to be able to do that, you have to have a clear message in the organization. CHRO is part of the executive committee and is a very close circle of trust to the CEO.
I admire your position, but our survey still found that there's still some sort of perception gap about how heads of HR, CHROs do not understand strategic problems and are not key partners. Do you think it's a perception problem? Do you think they don't market themselves well enough or their accomplishments? What can be done so that more people share your view?
I think it starts with CEO. CEOs must open up and say that I'm going to work very closely with my CFO and my CHRO. Now I'm really balancing both sides, the human capital and my financial balance sheet capital. So it's number one. Number two, if you don't have the strategic orientation based CHRO, you're not going to succeed. It's very simple to bring CFO who are competent, financial expert. But CEOs and the board of directors also have responsibility to pick a person who will fit that profile to be able to utilize that person's talent beyond traditional HR. So it's a process both in selecting the right person and also CEO must open up.
As organizational structures become flatter and less hierarchical, so there are fewer managers, people have more autonomy and need to sort of go off on their own and take more initiative. What do you think HR can do to sort of facilitate the process? Is there a role for HR in that?
Absolutely. I think this comes down to the fundamental of mentoring, coaching. How do you train your people? How do you develop talent? Because I can make a case. One thing is to acquire talent. But if you don't develop them, you're not going to retain talent. And that's the problem with many corporations.
How can the head of HR learn to speak the empirical, metrics-driven language of the CFO?
I think that again starts from the boardroom where the executive committee sits together and we learn from each other. As we have financial matrix, HR also develops their own matrix. In our case, we have number of people rotating from their domain to outside of their comfort zone. Number of people taking positions from outside of their country. This is how we develop people. Then we also see what is the coach versus candidate relationship. We have internal coaches, we have mentor, and we do sort of a 360 with subordinates, superiors, and customers included. So we're measuring the constant feedback on 5-6 core characteristics of management leadership. How are they improving? These are the metrics I see. And then of course, last but not least, the high potential every corporation has. So if you have 100 high potentials, what's the attrition rate? Because high potentials are a lot likely, they're a lot more prone to move on to different organizations because they're demanding. So maintaining a low attrition is the number one matrix, and it's a great matrix for HR to see. That means they're doing everything right. They're coaching right, they're mentoring right, they're fulfilling the professional needs right, and they're connecting the dots, and they're creating a transparent, trusted environment for people to reach out to each other and to CHRO.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dinesh.